I spent $4,000 on a split test over about 2 days just to prove a point, which is surveys, beach forms every day of the week. I posted the results in our With You program. I said, hey crew, spent 4K on a split test over the last 24 hours, and this is the difference between having a survey embedded below the VSL as opposed to having a button, adding a single click of physical resistance and the exact same questions in the same order on a form pop-up. The survey, which is what I was running previously, and I've always run, had a conversion rate of 9.45%, whereas the button on the form pop-up had a 5.21% conversion rate, so almost half. I knew those would be the results. I just wanted to waste some money and prove a point. Some petty. So what I want to talk about in this video is a few of the strategies and tactics that I've used. Can you hear it? A few of the strategies and tactics that I've been using to increase conversion rates on landing pages, in particular application pages. So if you're a coach or a consultant trying to get more clients, trying to improve the conversion rate of that first landing page. And what I'm going to be speaking about is, I'm not going to be talking about all the stuff on the landing page. Like, I'm not going to be talking about the VSL. I'm not going to be talking about the headline. I'm not going to talk about the subheadline. All I'm going to speak about is the subheadline, the call to action, which is above the survey, and then what survey questions you put in first. Now, one of the things I always talk about with the With You members is how often I'm disappointed by the intelligence of the human race. Because typically when you have a landing page, you have the VSL and then you have a little bit of text telling them to complete the form below, or the survey, and then you would have the survey. If you simply delete that little line of text that says complete the survey, significantly less people will complete the survey. like half. Because I'm assuming that you're watching this channel, you're a relatively intelligent person. So when you see a form on a page, you know, like, oh, I'm probably meant to fill that out. Unfortunately, when you advertise on the internet, I've said it time and time again, everyone exists on a normally distributed bell curve of intelligence. And half of them are just retarded. And so they just won't complete the form. And so you need put a little piece of text there that says, hey, complete the form below. Another thing you want to do as well is you don't want to just say, complete the form below. You want to make it feel like they're starting a process. So in our With You member template, it says, I'm going to edit it because everyone just thinks just leave it as is, but it says next step, answer a few questions to start your application. I've found application has been like too high psychological resistance. So you need to feel like they're starting something or tailoring something. So some ones that have done well, like in the online fitness space, are next step, answer a few questions to tailor your transformation. And so the way you're saying tailor your transformation, it justifies the questions that you're going to ask down there. It's like, oh, like we're tailoring something, right? And then on the second page, you'll book that call. And obviously it's like a tailored one-on-one kind of coaching service, right? That's one thing that works. Or like, for example, industry sets one is answer a few questions to get matched with your coach. Like it piques a little bit of curiosity. It's like, oh yeah, like the syllabus gets tailored, like the coach that I get matched with gets tailored by this form. And so it slightly increases. And when I say slightly, I mean, it will go from like 4 to 6%, which is a 50% increase on the actual people that will complete the survey. Another really common mistake that I see, actually not as common anymore, because in my templates I put contact details at the end, is don't put contact details as the first question. That is a selfish question for you. What you want to do is you want to meet them where they are. And so the most, like all of our With You members use this, the easiest fucking question is just which best describes you. And then the first exercise we get With You members to do is their customer avatar. And then you write like towards and away from motivators. What you do is you just get these towards and away from motivators, and then you just make a question which best describes you, and then just 4 multiple choice questions, A, B, C, D. And it's like towards motivator, away from motivator, towards motivator, away from motivator. So they can look at it and selfishly go, oh, I am experiencing that now. It's akin to 2017 when you all gave your personal information to Russia because you were completing quizzes on Facebook about like, which Disney princess are you? Like, I wonder if I'm sourdough bread or not. And then you just logged in, connected to the Facebook API, and then they just scraped all of your data. Womp womp. So do that. Another thing you want to do as well, you want some kind of disqualification question. Now, I always see time and time again, whenever business owners like take control of their survey, they get way too trigger happy with disqualification questions. It's like they basically just want to sell them through a survey without speaking to anyone at all, and they get way too trigger happy with the disqualification questions. One thing I always repeat in the With You workshop is you don't want to create a problem by trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist yet. What I mean by that is don't create a problem, i.e. very poor conversion rates, by trying to solve a problem that hasn't happened yet, i.e. you think you will get a lead quality issue in the future, but it hasn't happened yet. Wait till you notice a trend over like 30 or 60 days, and then you can add a question to plug that hole. I'll give you one example now. Now, I haven't made a video about this, so this is the first time you're gonna hear about it, but I call it the red flag test. Every single service-based business has people that either come through their program or buy their services, which are just a hassle to deal with, either and usually both in the sales process and in the actual program in and of itself. What that means is how someone is in the sales process, how much of a hassle they are, is usually an incredibly accurate predictor of how they'll be in the program. So if they complain that they can't find a time to book a sales call with you, they're probably going to complain in the program as well. So I had this hypothesis back in, I think it was January. And I had a theory that I could add one question that we could just internally in our CRM system add a little red flag emoji that they didn't see, but the team would see it. And then I would just track the members throughout the program and also the sales process. And my hypothesis was right. So I think I tested it for 9 months, and then we looked at the data. All of the red flag leads, the leads that got flagged by the CRM system for the 2 bad responses in the survey, they had half the show rate and half the close rate of the non-red flag leads. So they had essentially, if a lead was 75% less likely to actually buy. They also, whenever we did get members that were like overtly struggling or just asking more difficult questions, like more basic questions, we looked them up in the CRM system almost every single time, and there was a red flag next to them. Now, here's what the question is. You won't be able to use this one exactly. I'll give you another example, which is industry set. So the question was, it was a which best describes you, but I won't write them out, but it was which best describes your approach to learning and implementing new things in the business. Options A and B were green flags. They were variations of, I like having a plan, but no adjustments will need to be made along the way. Options C and D were the red flags. They were variations of, I get frustrated when things don't work immediately. People that picked options C and D had, again, half the show rate and half the close rate. So we actually just disqualify them. They're not even allowed to book anymore. And noticing the tail end effects of that, more members are getting results because they're coming into the program knowing that they're going to need to come in and do work. The variation that we use for industry set is different. So this is where if you're watching this and you're the business owner, you're probably doing all the sales. You need to come up with a question that gets the complainers to identify themselves. So in industry sets for electronic music producers. And so one of the questions that I put in there, and it red flags people, we just started running this test like a month or 2 ago, so we're going to look at the data again soon. It was basically, so industry set, you need to be coachable. That's the key metric we're looking at. If a student is coachable, then they're more likely to buy and they're more likely to do the work. It's the students that are like, oh, my music's already good, I just need more people to hear it. They're the problem, right? And so we have a question which is, I think it's some variation of which best describes where you're at in your career right now. And options A and B are variations of like, I'm doing well, but I know I could do better and I'm looking to get coaching, something like that. Options C and D were like, I already make good music, I just need more people to hear it. And so as people book in, we just see red flags. Like if they say those options, we just see red flags come up in the Slack channel notifications. So okay, we'll just, and then speaking to Jackson, just anecdotally, he's like, yeah, the red flag test holds. It's like whenever there's a red flag next to the name, they're just annoying on the calls. Something else that happens when you spend $4,500 a day on ads is because, and I learned this from Jeremy Haynes as well, who's one of my mentors, I mentioned in the last video, is when you're spending okay, so if this is like the entire market of people that you could sell to, these are the people that are almost gonna buy, just without even trying. And these are the people that are relevant, but they're not problem aware, they're not solution aware. You got to spend a lot more time convincing. When you're spending $4,500 a day, I'll look at my stats in a minute, but when you're spending couple hundred bucks a day, you basically just hit this audience. And so you don't have to do a whole lot of convincing. Basically spend $4,500 a day. Meta has no option but to just go to colder and colder audiences. And the way that I have to speak to these people is very, very different to the people I speak to down here. So down here, like the basics do really, really well. And as you go to colder and colder audiences, you got to do a lot more. It's not a lot more, it's just a few very small changes you had to make. Like one of the ways that you will know you're going up here is your show rate will go down. So down here, your show rate's probably gonna be like 80% and your close rate's probably gonna be like 40%, right? Let's just say it's gonna depend on your industry, right? But as we started spending more and we went up here, our show rate went down to like 60% and then our close rate went down to like 30%. And then we made a few small changes that actually brought us back down to here. So I'll talk about a few of those changes. Now the first change is, and I've spoken about this in multiple different videos before, is way too many people when they do call funnels, they just make their reminders more notifications than conversations. So you want your reminder sequence to be more of a conversation sequence rather than a notification sequence. What I mean by that is if you've got a call funnel, you've got like Calendly set up or something like that, all your email reminders like, hey, you got a call tomorrow, don't forget to come. Hey, your call's in an hour, don't forget to come. If you want to like maintain these kinds of statistics, you need to have more of a conversation. And so what our nurture sequence looks like is they're reminders for sure, but embedded in them is value and conversations. And so like the main thing is in the email reminder, so the email confirmation is having a really exciting meeting agenda saying, hey, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about this. By the way, what will really help you is watching this beforehand, just so you can write down any questions. And you want to give them homework without telling them it's homework. So don't use the word, because if I say, hey, you have homework, how do you feel? It's like, no, you need a position. Like one of the things that we want them to do is watch the VSL before the call because it will make the sales reps' jobs easier. So the way we position it is rather than saying, what I said in the past was, hey, watch this before the call or some variation of that. Now what it says is, hey, what will really help you is giving this a watch beforehand, just chuck it on during lunch or on the train or something like that and jot down any questions so we can go through them together. So now it's like position is more of a benefit than a chore. Another thing is like they know they have the call book, so you don't need to say, hey, the call's tomorrow at this time. What we'll do is the reminder sequences, the reminder text will be more something like, rather than, hey, chat to you tomorrow, it will be, hey, all good for our call tomorrow. I'm just going for your socials. Is there anything else you want me to look at that you didn't get to send through on the form? Right? And then that gives them like, oh yeah, like there's this, there's that, and then there's more of a conversation again. So the key theme there is make your nurture sequences more conversational than notificational. That's a word now, Aiden. I'll talk about sales reps as well. So right now, like our key like team statistics are 70, or I think in the last like 3 months, it's been like a 75% show rate and a 35 to 40% close rate. I just want to talk about a few of the things that will help maintain like sales rep consistency. Now, the number one thing, I was on the Sales Dojo podcast yesterday afternoon, just after work, and they asked me as the last question, number one piece of advice when you're waiting in line behind a cafe from someone that's starting in sales tomorrow, what's your number one piece of advice to them? And my key word was follow the process. Now, I'm stealing this one from Tim, who's my mate and head of sales, and he consistently says, I just try and do the next step in the process. I just try and do the next step in the process. Jake, who's one of our junior sales reps, he's only like 21, he's closing like 67% or something stupid. I asked him, I was like, bro, you're closing, at the time, I was closing 75%. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I just followed Tim's process. I just try and be a model of Tim, right? Tim's got weaponized autism. Jake does as well, but he's just got more eye contact. Right, he's just trying to follow the process. Now, what often happens though is if this is your process for the sales, like you do this, then you do this, 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 you say this, you say it in this word. What often happens is because you do like 6 or 7 or 8 calls a day, you'll make all these tiny little changes and it'll look like this. And on a day-to-day basis, like going from here to here doesn't seem like that much. Going from here to here doesn't seem like that much. But over the course of like 30 days, you've like completely deviated from what the actual core process was. And so what you need to do is just make sure that the sales reps are remaining consistent, just following the process. Because the other thing as well is like, their close rate's going to go like on a day-to-day basis. It's going to go up and down and up and down and up and down. And then it might go down heaps for like a while. But it has, as long as they're following the process, it has to average out. So it's like me and Tim were joking about the other day What did we say? It's like when things are going great, I'm worried because they're going to get shit. When things are going shit, I'm excited because they're about to get great next week, right? Everything just has to average out. We live in a simulation. Just follow the process and you should be consistent over a statistically significant sample size of data. Say the billion times. Oh, the call to action thing you always made me do. Yeah, if you want to learn how to advertise and just punch the gas on $4,000 a day, make ads like your favorite thing to spend money on because you know it just makes you more money on the other end, then just click the link in the description.